Hi everyone, Kate here, Christa from What to Expect
When You're Not Expecting Cancer.
We're lucky enough to have a special guest with us today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi.
Welcome.
My name is Marcia Wickett. I am a holistic nutritionist and cancer survivor from Toronto, and I am here to chat a little bit with you about diet culture. And the main focus of my practice is teaching people how to break up with diet culture.
Yes.
And the first step is teaching them what it is.
So what's diet culture?
Yeah. So diet culture is, it's everywhere. That's the first thing. It's like the air we breathe. That's something I always like to say. And it's anything from, advertisements that we see that tell us that we need to look a specific way. Beyond body type also has to do with, a person's ability. Skin tone is a big part of it. The way our hair looks, that's all part of diet culture. And it's a $60 billion industry and growing. So it's an industry that profits off of telling us we need to look different. And so I want to teach people how to say no to that and to improve their relationships with food, really.
Hence why we have all this lovely food in front
Lots
of us
of food
right
on the table
now.
here. Yeah.
And speaking to body image and nutrition, Christa and I are also just going through our cancer right now. As most of you know, we're both in chemo and we're both having very different reactions.
Yes.
I am having no appetite, no want for food, but gaining weight because of the steroids I'm on and the chemo. But it has nothing to do with diet, it's medication based. So that creates some body image and nutrition. And then Christa,
I have lost a lot of weight. I've never had a thigh gap in my life. And actually a friend, Jill, a mutual friend, she always jokes like, Mother Teresa, she didn't worry about a thigh gap. But I have one, and I don't want one because I've lost all my muscle, all my fat in the hospital, and I am underweight. So I am just like filling myself up with food to try and gain weight back.
yeah. So then you can speak to that about nutrition and not starving your body and actually.
So what would diet culture say in terms of like, what can I eat? Or not eat, like good food and bad food.
So like diet culture in general would say some of these things are better than others. I would definitely say no to this and this, but diet culture has actually gone so extreme now that it's made us afraid of fruit.
So like sugar.
That's how extreme it is now. We have like keto diets and these paleo diets, which the keto diet was actually designed for specific brain issues. So people who have seizures or people who have brain tumors.
Right.
Have gone on that diet and some have seen results, and it's now like super mainstream, completely unnecessary.
Sort of like celiac and all that. Getting
like
rid of bread.
Right?
And,
like a celiac. If you're not celiac.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So similar idea. So honestly, diet culture at its most extreme would say no to pretty much all of this, and it would say maybe have some of this bowl of fruit in limited amounts though, right? And only at certain times of the day.
Right.
So that's like, I sound pessimistic, but that's really.
And then
really
you become afraid to eat.
And you're guilty.
You're scared.
You're like, I want this.
Yeah.
And I'll have it, but then you're eating it and you're like so guilty about it.
The joy is gone from that lovely, buttery, beautiful croissant.
I should eat this. This isn't a part of my diet. It's on my cheat day, right?
Right. You're right. And there's another word that you've had.
Yeah.
So I actually have one question for you, Marcia. So a term we hear a lot, and we've even used it just now, is cheat day. Is that even a good word? Is that a word we should get rid of? And like for me, it's a guilt. When I say, oh, I'm having a cheat day, it's a guilt-invoking word.
Yeah.
Even when it's something healthy-ish, like avocado with olive oil, but I'm having my Starbucks coffee with it maybe.
Yeah, so the thing about cheat day is that, first of all, on our cheat days we eat what we want to be eating. So to me it's wild that on the day you're actually eating what you want to be eating, you're referring to it as cheating. But diet culture is so rooted in this sort of moralistic language where we have cheat days, or we say I'm being bad by having this, or I need to, there's all this like sort of good and bad language that we attach to our food, which actually, it really takes away from it, and it loses sight of the fact that food is so much more than just like good food and bad food.
Right.
So my goal with my clients is to get rid of that. the moral language we have around food, because all food is important. They all serve different purposes, and when you can kind of look at all food equally, you actually end up eating a really great balanced diet anyway.
Okay. So like sugar is not bad, correct?
No,
Like, you need sugar, whether it be this or whether it be this on occasion, correct?
Yeah, and the truth is, like, all of these things on occasion are fine. And when you can move away from diet culture, you end up getting to a place where you're not overthinking anything when it comes to food, and you end up eating everything a little bit. So it ends up
balanced.
Yeah, when you move away from being like, I need to practice moderation and having all these rules, you actually end up in a place of moderation, but you have to let go of all of that stuff first to be able to get there. Right? Yeah.
And it's interesting actually because Kate and I were super healthy before our cancer diagnosis. So I mean, I was eating, you know what I mean, the good stuff.
And organic. And we're trying to be mainly
sometimes
organic.
the bad stuff, but I would have the guilt now. And I realized with my diagnosis that I'm not going to take this bad stuff away. You know what I mean? Because I was super healthy before.
Right.
It's not like I was just eating the bad stuff and I did, like, you know what I mean? So now I eat some of the bad stuff. No, not the bad stuff. I'm
Diet culture.
I'm doing labels.
Ingrained
I'm
into
eating
us.
food that I want to eat, and I don't have that guilt.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm eating it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm savoring it. And I'm like, ooh, that chocolate is so good.
And it's another
salt on
way of
it.
filling our cup, as Christa and I always say. If you're going to meet somebody for a cup of coffee and you want to share that piece of cake or that sweet, if it fills your cup and enriches your experience, why feel guilty?
But don't have that added stress when you're
Yeah.
eating it of the guilt and think, oh, I shouldn't be eating this. This is my cheat day.
Yeah.
But just enjoy the food.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't like the good food, bad food, but there is this saying that I've heard. It's like it's better to eat like bad food with a good attitude than good food with a bad attitude. So before I was diagnosed with cancer, I too was doing everything right. By the book, like to a point that I was, that I was going, like it was a little bit like orthorexia, like I was obsessed. And then I ended up getting cancer, and I had to really reevaluate like why I labeled certain foods one way or another, and why I imagined that if I was this specific clothing size, I wouldn't get sick. And it just sort of shifts your perspective on all of those things.
Did it also make you realize in that moment when you were diagnosed with cancer, after being a nutritionist, eating healthy, knowing what fuels your body in the best way, did it sort of give you permission to know that you did not cause your cancer?
Absolutely.
Anyone, any age, any race, any gender will get cancer. It's
you can't be too
control.
young or too healthy to get cancer.
Totally. Exactly. So there's two things. First thing is, if you are part of that AYA group and you're diagnosed with cancer.
What's AYA?
Adolescents and young adults. So anybody who's been diagnosed with cancer between the age of 15 and 39 is considered an AYA. Right. And there's virtually nothing you could have done as an AYA to have caused your cancer.
Nothing.
So that's the first thing. And then the next thing is this idea that, which I talk about as well a lot in my practices, about sort of like health being this virtuous thing. So if we're healthy, we're really virtuous, and that we attach that to our food, right? I'm making healthy choices. I'm going to put it on my Instagram. I'm doing all the right things.
I was
Look at me buying the groceries.
Make these nice dinners, and I was so excited about them, and I would take pictures of them and post them.
Yeah. But don't show anybody when you have the pizza or whatever, or the food.
Bag of Doritos.
Because there's that attachment to it, right? So I also want to move away from from that. I guess you could say that obsession we have with with health all the time, just sort of being more accepting of all different life stages. Yeah, less shaming, more accepting of different life stages and phases, and more accepting of eating good food, because life is too short.
Agreed.
Which is like an overused cliche, but it could not be more true. Like when you're diagnosed with cancer, right?
It brings everything into perspective really quickly.
Yeah.
And especially stage 4.
Stage 4, you have no idea.
We could live 20 years. We could live until we're 90, or we could not.
Yeah.
So we literally don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So life is too short.
Yeah, definitely. So eat all the foods you like, and whatever your cheat day foods are, those are probably the foods you should start eating as much of as you want. And then eventually you want those foods less. But as long as things are off limit, you're gonna feel out of control around those specific foods.
Right.
Yes. So when you take when you take that off of all foods, you find actually, okay, well, since I know that I can have pasta tomorrow, maybe I don't want it today. I'll have something else. Or, you know, intuitive eating isn't just pizza all day.
No.
Intuitive eating is everything whenever you want it.
Knowing your body, knowing your digestion even. Like
Yeah,
realizing,
exactly.
like you said, pasta, like when you're going through chemotherapy, you have to take a lot of things to make sure things are moving. So you might not be wanting that.
Right.
You might be wanting that big bowl of salad because you're working on your digestion.
Yeah. Actually, I have a story about that. So it used to be before I was diagnosed, you know, I would get random stomach aches, and that was a big reason why I got into holistic nutrition to begin with, because I had IBS. Probably like stress-related IBS, I guess you could say.
Which is very common right now in our day and age. A lot of people are suffering for this.
Super common. And there's definitely a connection there between worrying about eating the wrong foods and the way they react with your body.
Right.
Science is now starting to show that. And so I would eat certain foods sometimes, and then I might get a stomach ache later, and I'd be like, oh my god, all my hard work to be healthy, like it's all out the window, and then, you know, I had cancer. And then I sort of started to shift my perspective on food, and I've noticed now, like I had an experience recently where I ate something and I kind of bugged my stomach a little bit, and I didn't freak out though. I was like, okay, like noted, you know, this food item isn't making me feel good. I guess I won't have it, you know, for a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
And I realized this like light bulb went off. You know, like, wow, this is so different from how I used to be. Like, I'm not beating myself up. There's no sort of like moral language attached to this. I'm simply like, oh, okay, I ate something that didn't feel so great, and I moved on. And when I ate it again, I was actually fine. You know, so
it could have been anything.
Right?
It could have been stress of the day. It could have been environment. It could have been an additive that you didn't know, like some oil or something on it.
Yeah, so like food doesn't have to be that serious, but we get real serious about it because there's we're being given a lot of information all the time, you know, from diet culture and all this advertising and the language we use.
And the new allergies, as we're talking about, the wheat allergy, gluten allergy, all those sort of things. So there's even more that's processing out into the general public in the world and the names, if you will.
Yeah.
So how do we handle people when, you know, I'm at home and I'm just eating, you know, and
delicious.
then family member walks in or a friend walks in and is like, do you want to be eating that on
Do you know that sugar's been linked to cancer when somebody tells you that?
That I hear all the time,
I'm not sitting there eating lollipops all day, people.
Yeah.
So how do we handle people? Or the general public? I'm at the grocery store, bringing in my Doritos.
Yeah.
And cashier is looking at my bald head saying, you know, making comments. How do we respond?
I mean, honestly, you can politely tell them to shut up. But if you want to, you know...
Set a good example. We're in the grocery store with the 3 children with us, not saying what we really want to say.
Our 3 children.
Together.
You're not a couple.
Your 3 children,
one child.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kindly let people know that it's none of their business, you know, what you're eating. Yeah. And I think in front of kids, it's super important. We're in such a fat-phobic society.
Yes.
So one thing that's important is, like, let's say somebody says, like, you shouldn't eat that, it's going to make you fat. I mean, these types of things affect your kids, right?
Absolutely.
Or it's going to make you sick.
And body image as they are getting older.
Yeah, it's going to make you fat, or it's going to make you sick. And I think it's important to send the message to your children that, like, people get sick and that's okay.
Yeah.
And fat's not a bad word.
No, it's not.
Like, fat is a body type. Overweight implies that you have too much weight, right? And obese is a medical term to imply unhealthy. So the right word is fat. And so I would, in some ways, when people say that, you kind of want to laugh at them and be like, well, that's interesting because there's something wrong with being fat, you know? There really is there's nothing...
Like,
you know?
saying short or petite versus a very tall.
Right? So kind of like asking those people to explore, like, what is it that worries them about what you're eating? And then the more you learn, the more you can kind of dissect what they're saying and help them to realize it's actually not even really based in science. It's because we're a
culture, as you said, culture.
Yeah, we're a fat-phobic society, and I think we have a fear of getting sick, which getting sick is not great.
No, it's scary.
We feel
it's
protected
not ideal,
when we're eating the apple.
Right,
you know,
exactly.
Some people feel or the juice or like the celery juice.
Celery juice is very big right now.
Yeah, but we feel protected, like, oh, but we're doing this, and I'm less vulnerable now.
Right.
Because I'm drinking my daily celery juice, and that is going to protect me from having cancer.
Yeah. Yeah, and if celery juice genuinely tastes good to you and you're enjoying it while you're having
It makes you feel good.
do it up. Like I love green juices with just like lemon and ginger and vegetables.
And it's in your budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
Too. That's the other big thing. Because a
It
lot
is
of these
hard
things
to do
are
organic and juicing and things like that. And
Yeah.
especially when you're a
that's
cancer patient.
That's a whole other thing because
Yeah.
the health and wellness movement is super. It's a really elitist movement
Very
that
much
doesn't
so.
recognize the socioeconomic status of
Sure.
most people, and so there's a lot of judgment there without recognizing.
Of course,
that some
a head of
people don't have
cauliflower is
access.
$5 and a
Yeah.
bag of potatoes is $2.
Yeah.
What are you gonna buy when you have a family of
Yeah.
5?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's a super complex and nuanced subject that deserves a lot more attention, I think, in peeling away the layers than we necessarily give it credit for. But I think, like, mainly, working on being non-judgmental is the first step, towards others and for ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
What would you say is the biggest thing you could send out there to people who may be cancer patients or not cancer patients regarding, like, one PowerPoint of view
Because
of
this is
nutrition?
a topic that doesn't just speak to the cancer language.
Oh, yeah,
it's a
everybody.
topic that I think everybody can relate to.
Parents
Yeah.
trying to feed their kids, parents going into more of senior and geriatric.
Or,
everyone.
people just kind of struggling with body image
Yeah.
or eating issues or their relationship with food or just
What would be your
everything.
one key advice that if you could reach somebody, you want to make sure that they would hear?
Well, so the first thing would be that it's okay to not do things perfectly. So it's okay to not know if you're eating exactly the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Your body is amazing and it will figure it out.
Which is so important.
Like,
Remember, your body
yeah.
is amazing. Even if it does have cancer, even if your cancer's come back, or if you've had any other things, your body's still amazing.
It will know exactly what it needs to do. And so you don't have to worry about that so much. And then the second part is, I think, if we're talking about body acceptance and getting to that place of being more comfortable around food and not being so hard on ourselves, is instead of trying to get to a place where you're like, you know what, I love myself, I'm great, I can eat whatever I want. Work on getting to a place where shift that focus and realize that, like, how I look and my health status and what I'm eating in this exact moment actually have no bearing over my value, right? I'm valuable for other reasons. And so I think that's the biggest take home for me, is teaching people where they can find value outside of striving for health or a specific body type.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it.
Good advice.
Yeah. And don't look to the Instagrammers, because they have great lighting, great makeup. They
And
have a
technology
fitness.
to
Yes.
airbrush everything.
Plus, they have their own
And
home
they do.
chef and their own personal trainer and such. So try not to make those people your role models.
And clothing, when you put on clothing,
Don't look. Yeah.
don't think about adjusting your body to fit the clothing. The clothing adjusts to fit your body.
And you'll feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, tailor, get a good tailor.
Exactly.
Actually, yeah, tailor makes like a huge difference.
Really?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
nobody is a 00, and if you are, great, but don't attain to be that. Attain to be what feels the best on your body, gives you the most energy. Don't look at a label or a number on a scale. That's always
Yeah.
been a big one for me. The scale, number,
Yeah, throw your scale out.
Don't-
No
yeah.
one needs a scale.
no. I've said that for years.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Yeah, no
Except
one
in the
needs
kitchen, maybe, to measure things.
Yes, but
not in
not
the
to weigh
bathroom.
yourself.
That's
No.
different. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you so much for
thank you so
coming.
much for joining
So
us
nice to
today.
meet you.
It was a pleasure
Yes.
to have you.
Yeah.
We're going to have all of her information on our website here if you'd like to personally reach out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Questions, comments, likes, shares, always welcomed. Thanks for tuning in.
Till next time. Bye, guys.